we get to the final love. And this is not a natural love. Now, I should emphasize here that Lewis does not, in fact, mention the word agape, which is surely the word that's underlying this idea. I think that's because Lewis knows that the word agape is not actually distinguished from other words for love in the New Testament in this particular way, or in the Greek language entirely. Agape does not actually have its own separate meaning of like Christian love or whatever. So I think he actually deliberately avoids differentiating a Greek word here. But he does want to make the theological point that there is a divine love that supersedes all of the other three natural loves, without which those three natural loves ultimately fall into their dangers and ultimately devolve. And so his point here is theological, not linguistic. And I think that's very important. A lot of mistakes get made in like the Gospel of John, John 21 with the, trying to distinguish between the words for love and all, and it doesn't hold up exegetically. Lewis knows that. So he actually avoids that here. But what he then observes is that essentially the will governs the three loves. So the three natural loves, these are very much in the domain of feeling. You feel for another person in specific ways, but feelings themselves are not actually stable foundations. What you have to have is the foundation of the will that then gives those loves a place on which to actually rest. So charity, as he calls it, is the love from the will. This is the commitment of one person to the true good of the other person. Lewis also, in the process of all this, opposes the idea that divine love diminishes natural love. He opposes actually St. Augustine on this. He says this is a mistake. It's not that divine love diminishes or teaches us to avoid having too many natural attachments. Instead, it inhabits all of those loves and raises them up to a place where they actually are godlike. So this is a very, very important point for him, that divine love actually is what sustains and sanctifies natural love. He essentially argues that any love that we feel for another, we have to recognize that the real roots of that have to be in divine love. And therefore, we have to act in that way, which then allows those loves to work as they should. Another point that I think is worth noting here is he points out that receiving charity and the willingness to humbly do so is as important as giving it. And this is an important point because it's very easy to want to always be the giver, to be the one that other people need, but it's hard to submit to the gift, to have someone else serving us if we want to be more like God. But the recognition that our receiving other people's love and service in that context makes room for them to be obedient to God, and also recognizes our position as feeble and dependent on God's love all along. That actually establishes the right relationship within the body of Christ and also with us in relation to God himself. He wraps up the book with the observation that love of others is ultimately love of God, that whatever we love in other people, ultimately when we look into the face of God, will be seen in its fullness there, that it was not really just my mother or my wife or my child that I loved, but it was God in my mother and my wife and my child. All the good things that I love, those things are given from and found in God. And he observes that only those into which love himself has entered will ascend to love himself, and that this is the necessary precondition for the sanctification of those loves.
Our 1-hour webinars are monthly on the third Thursday and are designed to equip you with historical, scientific, and philosophical reasons for believing that Christianity is true. Our webinars are free and are open to the public, so feel free to invite your friends. You go to ratiochristi.org/webinars. Most of our monthly webinars will feature a presenter from within Ratio Christi. However, we'd like to bring in special non-Ratio Christi presenters on a quarterly basis, so stay tuned for what those are going to be.